Kia ora, my name's Tony Marie Smith and thank you for watching the 2022 Mayoral Candidate Interview Series, the purpose of which is to give you, New Plymouth residents, a better idea of who your candidates are beyond the little written blurb bio you get and the Know Your Candidate questions on the NPDC website, to which I will leave a link in the video description below. So today I have the honour of stealing some of Mayor Neil Holdom's time. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Awesome. How are you this morning?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
Busy week, but we're nearly there. It's Friday.
Yeah, true. It is Friday. It's been a blur. So before we get started on the questions, which if you at home have seen the other videos, you will know that I'm asking the same 5 questions to each candidate to allow for a fair judgment against each other's answers. Before we get into those though, I was wondering about, what do your kids think of you as mayor? Do they think it's cool? Are they interested in local government? Or are they like, Dad's in the paper again?
Oh, look, 6 years ago, because we were all pretty stunned when I got the job, and it created some drama in our household because the plan wasn't to become the mayor, it was just to get on the council. So for the kids that was a bit of a buzz, particularly our youngest, Alyssa, she was 5 at the time. And so all of a sudden we went from, kind of hicks in the sticks to being invited everywhere to do everything, and the kids really enjoyed going out basically constantly. The novelty's kind of worn off, so that's just something, it's just normal sort of life now, and we don't make a big deal out of it. And one of the things, the kids really don't talk about it in terms of, they don't advertise the fact of what their dad does for a job, and some obviously in a town like this people kind of know, but we never, if I'm somewhere with the kids and occasionally people go, "Are you the mayor?" And we go, "Shh." Yeah. So it's just it's been quite normalised. But yeah, look, it's been great for their experiences because they've got to meet some amazing people and go some pretty cool places as part of the job.
Fantastic. Cool. All right, let's get into it, eh? So arguably every person who puts themselves forward for mayor believes they're the best person for the job, but if everybody was the best fit for the current challenges, then it wouldn't matter who we voted in. Generally, our skills and qualities and the value of them depends on what's needed at the time. So you probably have an advantage, I would say, having been mayor for 6 years, but given the other candidates, what do you think sets you apart in light of the issues NPDC and the community are currently faced with?
Sure. Well, I mean, firstly, being elected twice has been a real privilege, and I think one of the advantages I have, obviously, is I've done 18,000 hours in the job and demonstrated that I'm a safe pair of hands. I've got 20 years working in infrastructure, and I think that effectively 80% of what council does is in infrastructure. So that's your 3 waters, your roads, your parks and your playgrounds. So I've also demonstrated a proven focus on environmental sustainability. And I mean, my wife and the children and I, we're rooted in this community. We live rurally, and I think that's actually quite good to live out in the country, and so you don't become just purely focused on the city issues. I've got a daughter at Girls High School, a son at Boys High School, and another daughter at Welburn, so we're plugged into to schools here. My wife's a teacher, so she works, she just does relief work around, but schools right across the region, from sort of Tikarangi, and then through into schools in town. And so we're kind of plugged into the youth, and my dad lives here, so he's like 82, so kind of plugged into that kind of seniors setup as well. And I'm part of the kind of mountain biking club and volunteering and things like that. And also I've got a management consultancy, so my own business. So I think that I've got those connections kind of across quite a diverse range of groups within the district. And the other thing, and I think it is a critical success factor for the role, is before I got this job, I was working down in Wellington, and doing work around policy and development for the energy sector. And I've proven I can work with government. So in the last 5 years, we've secured about 300 million in discretionary government investments into Taranaki. And, the other thing is, I think the critical role of the mayor is to build a cohesive team. You're not the manager of the other councillors, you're not their boss, you're another team member, and everybody has an equal vote. But I've had 2 fantastic teams to work with, and we have built cohesive teams. And I think you can see when you look, for instance, our long-term plan, 13 out of 15 people signed it off. So we've built a good vibe. I think we've focused on lifting that professionalism. We have a bit of fun in council, but we're very focused on, working with the community and then and really understanding what it is that is wanted and needed, and then trying to balance that with their ability to pay.
Okay, fantastic. And I think the experience in the job and the time you've had in the job is obviously a huge advantage, but I do want to ask, what has your greatest challenge been during your time as mayor, and perhaps maybe the first term might have had significant challenges, and also, despite holding the position for the past 6 years, which skills or areas of knowledge do you feel you could perhaps develop further to ensure that you are executing the role as best as possible?
Sure. So, look, I think the local challenge is always around, we've got people's needs, we've got people's wants, and then we've got our ability to fund this work, and we have to tax people. And so it's just finding that balance. And obviously with the inflation that we're seeing now, households more than ever before are quite vulnerable, and it really is hitting people every time they fill up or every time they go to the shops to get fruit and vegetables. So that's always going to be a difficult challenge. One of the bigger challenges in the role has been dealing with the beehive.
Okay.
And they tax 91% of taxes, and we local government do the other 9%. So when people talk about what they pay in rates, it's because we send them a quarterly invoice. If government sent you a quarterly invoice that captured what you paid in terms of your employment tax, and then your GST, and then your fuel tax, plus the GST they charge on our rates, you'd find the numbers look quite different, and perhaps be talking to the local MP more than people talk to us. But the big issue there is, for that 91% of taxes, is we've really had to battle for our fair share. And I see that as something that we've made some good progress on, but it is really, really hard work. The objectives out of Wellington are really to centralise everything. And obviously you talk about Three Waters later, but essentially the bureaucrats in Wellington, and there are layers of them, that they look down their nose at local government and they think we can do everything better. And so with Three Waters, they'll basically slice 30% of what we do off. Potentially there are other reforms coming where they'll either force us to amalgamate or take further services off us. And I actually believe that we do things better locally. I think that we deliver efficiently when you consider all the services we deliver for the average household for about $50 a week. And just as an example, so this election that council's running, I think it costs about $300,000. And I saw an example that if Paul Eagle, who's an MP, wins the Wellington mayoralty and they run a by-election, it's a similar area in terms of people, where his electorate in Wellington, 1.2 million for the government. So it's 4 times more expensive for them to run an election for the same number of people as it is for us. So I think the challenge for the future mayor is about actually defending our position and defending, because I think what we do pretty well and it matters, from being eroded, and then continuing to attract the investment to, and because we've had to fight for investments in roading, we've had to battle for the hospital. That hospital build was meant to have been started sort of 3 or 4 years ago. There's no investment in our polytechnic. That's our tertiary education opportunity, but government is just they've made promises, but they refuse to invest in it. And so they're refusing to invest in the education of our young people unless they move out of the region. So it's really saying, well, what are we getting for all of that tax that we're paying to Wellington? And I think by working with building good teams, so working with the other councils and working with mana whenua and working with businesses, we've been able to go down there with a kind of single voice and say, hey, you guys need to be fair and reasonable and transparent, and you need to do better.
Staying strong and standing up for the region. I agree. So you mentioned Three Waters, and this is something I'm asking everybody because I think it's interesting the connection to the community and the perception of the community feeling. So regardless of your stance on Three Waters, which you've shared a bit of and can be found on the NPDC Know Your Candidates webpage. In your view, what do you see as the key reasons the Three Water reform is receiving such opposition? And also if the reform is inevitably going to go ahead despite the opposition, which it seems like it's going to, how would you alleviate the community concerns?
Well, I think the reason that it's, going down really badly is because it's flawed policy. It's really complicated, and it's a bureaucrat's dream come true. And but I think our community has become increasingly suspicious of government promises, and we've seen with Te Pukenga how well the centralisation agenda is really actually working out for instance, for students. And for the staff that work in these organisations that are just trying to do their best. And again, they're underfunded, underappreciated, and all the decisions are being taken from some central hub. I think that, the reforms are trying to go too far, too fast. But in terms of alleviating community concerns, and I think this is the classic government, position, it's they're imposing this on our communities. And where are their MPs? I mean, we're the ones, I've had 6 protests outside, and people come to New Plymouth District Council and protest government policy because we're accountable. We're here, they see us walk in and walk out, they know that they can talk to us. It's not our job to alleviate community concerns about government policy that we've said isn't right. And I just want to commend the team that I'm a part of for they've stepped up and invested in Three Waters, and we've had to lift rates considerably, and politically that's not a palatable thing to do because traditionally people go, oh, I'll cut rates, and everyone goes, yeah, let's vote for them. Well, we've turned around and said, actually, we're going to invest in this core infrastructure. It is critical. It's where we store value. It's how we pay something forward to future generations. We know that our underground infrastructure is tired and old and it needs money. And as a district, we've stepped up and invested. And as a region, we've come up with a counter proposal, which is a Taranaki Three Waters co-op owned by our people and run by our people that is financially stable and secure. If these reforms fall over, and I still say there is a significant possibility they will, then the view is that we'll, as a region, I think and I think all the mayoral candidates would tell you this, that the work that I've done with the Mayoral Forum over the past few years, everybody's keen to actually do that, and we can get some benefits of scale. We have the financial capacity, and we've got the support of our community because the people in New Plymouth accepted, the work that we did on infrastructure. We said it's old, it's tired, it needs investment, and they went, we don't like paying rates, but actually we do like water and clean, safe water. We don't want poo in the rivers and streams, and we want to get the stormwater out of places like Waitara, and our community supported us. So, yeah, I think in terms of where we go, the hope is that the government takes its foot off the gas and actually listens.
Just a short sidestep on that. Do you think that people being, let's just say, accepting of rate increases for that reason, do you think that's a transparency or a communication issue, or do you think some people just don't want to be paying more regardless of the reason?
Look, there's our community is a spectrum of people. But I think it was really clear, and we got it from the submissions, that we showed them the state of our assets. We had an independent report done. We had it peer reviewed. And most people, if you use your car as an example, if you go for a warrant, and that they tell you all the things that need to be done. Most people get on and get them done.
You can't avoid the cost.
Yeah, now they're not thrilled about it. New brake pads, new tyres, this and that, steering alignment. But actually, most people go, well, I've got my family and friends in this car. I want it to be safe. We're not thrilled about it. We'd probably rather spend the money on going for a trip somewhere, but we do it. And I think that reflects that kind of pragmatism. So no one wants to pay more taxes. But actually, if the taxes go into the provision of good infrastructure, then actually I think most people accept that that's a good outcome.
They want the infrastructure.
That's it. And look, they understand that it's expensive, and I think our community is much smarter than many people give them kind of credit for. And yes, there are some people that just go, no, I can't afford this, or actually, and often they can afford it, but I don't believe that I should have to pay these taxes. But they're actually in the minority, and we saw that through the feedback from our community.
Okay, cool. Right, just a couple more questions and then we'll wrap up. So the issue of misinformation, disinformation spread, its potential impact on the community, it's a highly debated topic in our increasingly online media-saturated lives. But in regard to democratic process and societal progress, what are your views on freedom of speech? And conversely, the proposal of many at the moment, censorship of certain ideas?
Yeah, look, I'm not a big fan of censorship in politics. I think people should be free to follow the belief systems that align with their values, or ignore those that don't. I don't believe any form of government should be looking to censor ideas or beliefs. I think the world's already looking pretty Orwellian, and truth is kind of relevant to individual experience. What I would say is where people incite kind of violence or hate, and as example, what Trump did in the USA after the election, I think they should clearly be prosecuted by an independent judiciary, and if they're found to be guilty, punished accordingly. But I'd be deeply suspicious of any government that kind of attempts to censor or direct political discourse. I think it's really dangerous. There isn't a single source of truth. And
Thank you for saying that.
I think a few centuries ago people thought the earth was flat. And our knowledge evolves daily. And I look at sort of issues that we've seen, like Edward Snowden. Before Edward Snowden, the idea of what Five Eyes were doing in terms of spying on civilians and collecting information from people's phones, that was just a conspiracy theory.
Wow, crazy.
And before Cambridge Analytica, we actually thought that our electoral system was pretty safe and secure. So I think the world is changing and truth changes, and governments are the last people that should be allowed to define truth.
And how can we get to the truth if we can't have a debate about it, I suppose?
Well, yeah, and I think, I picked up on this about a decade ago, looking at the influence of social media, and the advice was to subscribe to views that go against your own, so that your feeds don't get that kind of cognitive bias of the algorithms. And so I've always done that, is try to, I think if you want to be well informed, don't just tune into people that agree with you. You need to tune into people that strongly disagree with you, and then listen to what it is they have to say, and listen for meaning, and realise that, from their perspective, what they're saying is 100% right, and it's this is truth. But the other thing is just keep an open mind. Don't get too hung up on your own beliefs, and just trying to sit back and be a little bit objective and go, well, because my view, I take a bit of a sort of scientific approach. I've based most of my beliefs, I suppose, on the available data. But if something changes, then I'm quite comfortable changing what I think. And I think that's the trick. And where I get concerned is when you meet people that are so fixed in their views that there is no point having a discussion, because they've made it really clear there is no other information. Whereas actually there's always other information.
Okay, thank you. I like that answer a lot. All right, lastly, for a bit of fun, can you please provide me with a campaign catchphrase that includes your name?
Okay. How about keep it real, vote for Neil?
Oh, I like that.
There you
Keep
go.
it real. Can you say it to that camera?
Keep it real, vote for Neil.
Awesome. I was thinking like Neil for mayor, he'll hold him to account. How do you like that?
Oh, you keep trying there.
Okay. That's what I got yesterday with Dinny. He said, I didn't feel it in the heart. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Neil.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you very much. And if you want to know more, again, there is the NPDC Know Your Candidates website, and be sure to vote. Otherwise, what's the point in watching this video? Thank you. Ka kite. Awesome. Thank you so much, Neil. That was great.